I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you'll please rise, we'll say the pledge together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Goladar.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our last April meeting. So moved. Thank you, Mr. Goladar. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Were there any corrections? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Goladar.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. Thank you for coming in spite of this beautiful day. I'm sure you'd all like to be outside, but thank you for coming. And we have an exciting meeting planned, and I'm going to turn it right over for communications, accommodations.
Well, thank you, Dr. Bennett. It is an exciting time. It's graduation season. It's the end of another school year, and it's been quite a school year, to say the least. But tonight is really about our kids, an opportunity to recognize some just outstanding accomplishments. And so this first part of the meeting, up until we take a little bit of a break, will really be just about that, honoring and recognizing our students. So I'd like to start off, and I've invited Tim Mackley from the Knox County ESC. And Tim, I'm going to let you kind of jump on the podium there for me, but he's going to be introducing a very special award that comes from ESCs across the state of Ohio. So Tim, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I'm going to ask Beckett to come on up here. If you would. Beckett is a senior at Mount Vernon High School, and I had a chance to meet Beckett and his parents last month at the annual event when all of these students who are Franklin B. Walter Award winners are recognized. Beckett, just a little bit of background about who Franklin Walter is, and you probably don't know, do you?
No.
Okay, Franklin Walter, and some of you in the room probably could possibly remember him. Franklin Walter was the state superintendent of public instruction for a number of years, and I feel like he set the example for what state superintendents should do in that job. In fact, I don't think anyone's ever done the job quite like Frank Walter did. So in my early years as a superintendent, while he was the superintendent in the state of Ohio, and then later he was appointed as the superintendent in residence at Ohio State University. And he was a really good man. And it's in his honor and his name that these awards are given every year. The award is given to one student in every county. So there are 88 students that receive this scholarship. And the educational service centers across the state are responsible for choosing those students. So in this case, Beckett, why it was 4 people at the Educational Service Center that screened and scored your application, as well as applications from each of the schools that are affiliated with the Knox Educational Service Center. There is a certain subjectivity to choosing the winner, which makes it difficult because every year, as you might guess, the applications that come to us from all of the schools that are affiliated with the Knox ESC are quite impressive. And as I'm reading through them, I'm thinking every time I read one, I would really like to see this young man or this young lady get the award because this is an impressive application. But I have to tell you that there was no question about it. When I was finished with Beckett's application, there was just no denying him this award. What an outstanding young man he is. And I know his parents are proud of him with good reason. And the Mount Vernon City Schools should be very proud of him as well. So Beckett is the Franklin B. Walter Award winner. He has to race off now because he's like so many other things he's got going. He has to get to his tennis banquet. So congratulations, Beckett.
Thank you.
there are a lot of other very deserving applicants, and rightfully so. This was a no-brainer for us because you're just an outstanding young man. Turn around back. You see this smile. This is the smile you always get, a very humble, very polite, very respectful smile. He's incredibly involved. I got to learn a little bit about way back in elementary school, and this was a young fellow who was driven. I mean, he wanted to be the best, but in a very humble way. He's heading off to Yale University, and we couldn't be more proud of you and this award that you've gotten. And we're just extremely proud here. Just a small token of our appreciation. And good luck at the tennis banquet. Okay, next on our list of kind of accommodations and communications is something you didn't get to hear a lot about last year because last year was kind of that COVID year and the year before that. But Mount Vernon City Schools participated in a Global Scholars Program several years ago. And it kind of got hijacked a little bit with COVID during a couple of those years, and they weren't allowed to go abroad and do some different things at different places in Columbus. But we have 5 seniors who followed a 3-year path to receive their Global Scholars Diploma. They had that award awarded to them here just recently. Clay Tauchef, he helps with that organization. So Clay, I'm going to ask you to kind of come up and you know what I might have you do, Clay? I know that kind of is right there. Why don't you come over here and stand right here so you can kind of see the board? But yeah, this is so important. I think it's important for everyone here to kind of hear about this program and these amazing students.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to acknowledge our senior Global Scholars graduates and the Global Scholars Program in general. As you alluded to, the last couple of years, for obvious reasons, have presented some challenges, and these students stayed with it. They're just that type of people. And so we have 5 seniors this year. Next year, we have a group of 14 that'll be in the 3rd year. And then the year after that, we should have around 20. So we're picking up steam and we're heading in the right direction. Just to give you an overview of the program very quickly, and then we'll recognize the individuals. The Global Scholars Diploma Program is hosted by the Columbus Council on World Affairs. What started out with a group of 20 students from just one district a handful of years back, today has over 1,000 participating students with over 20 school districts participating. And as a matter of fact, the program has taken off so well, been so successful that CCWA has actually had to restrict other districts from joining in. So it's really a privilege to have our students participate. And I'd like to thank you for providing this opportunity for our students. It's a 3-year program altogether with the main objective of creating globally competent and globally fluent individuals. During years 1 and 2, the students attend in-person events with meaningful experiences and complete supplemental assignments on their own. Throughout this process, they're building much needed skills for their futures. They learn how to communicate across cultures, to be successful in global careers, and how to come up with solutions for complex global issues. During year 3, after going through the first 2 years where they have developed a passion for a particular global issue, they have to carry out a take action project. In order to complete this project, they have to find a way to contribute to solving that global issue on a local level. These projects take an immense amount of planning, networking, organization, and effort. It goes without saying that the last couple of years have been very difficult, and many students, for understandable reasons, decided that they needed to pull out of the program to help them navigate through high school as best as possible. But these 5 students, regardless of the circumstances, made the decision to finish the task at hand, to fulfill an obligation, and ultimately to honor their commitment. I think that's a testament to who they are and clearly their parents for instilling that in them. They're some of our finest students, and they all possess an intrinsic motivation to learn. We're very fortunate to have these individuals as students and community members. Would you like me to introduce them?
Introduce them and have them come on up here.
Okay, so I will have, if present, Ella Ackert, Alexander Murray, Sophia Percy, Abigail Taylor, and Madeline Sensel. Come on up.
Okay, as I keep making some tech changes here, I want you to think about a 30-second elevator kind of a speech. Just about your project. I'm going to pull them up in order here. So I'm going to kind of pull this up and then come back to you. The board has all had a chance to read every one of your PowerPoints. They might even have a question or two. I saw them writing some things down. So what I might do, we're going to, Abigail, you're going to kind of lead us off. And so we're going to have you just kind of step right out here in front. I'll pull it up and you can give us that quick elevator. I don't see Abigail.
Abigail, yeah, Abigail's not here today.
All right, well, Abigail, so let's just dry run this. Hi, I'm Abigail. And I'll just pull up this, I'll just let it sit there. We won't go through all the slides, but just tell us a little bit about your project. And then maybe at the end, tell us kind of what your future plans are. And then I'll ask the board if they have any questions about your project, because there's some awesome projects. All right. All right. Abigail did one on diverse literature in elementary schools, and it really dealt very much with a lot of countries and looking at different kind of backgrounds and things like that. She did an amazing job with this. She actually went back to Wigan Street, which was her home elementary, and she worked with the librarian there and brought in books from other countries and so on and so forth. So she did an outstanding job. I guess we'll just go right down in order. And so, Sophia, you are up first. So let me go ahead and pull this up. And if you want to step right on out here, Sophia, and you can share us. Go ahead.
So my project was mental health in rural communities. So I was really focusing on trying to bring more mental health resources and making them available to the students. I worked pretty heavily with our new social worker. She was invaluable. I could not have done the project without her. I really appreciated the things that she had to say. And just, so the overarching goal was to try to get more mental health resources. They were emailed directly to students, and the hopes are that someday those can be posted on the school website for students and parents to have at their fingertips. I included some more national resources, so like tech hotlines, things that you can text, call, things like that, and additionally local resources with places that you can go in person and call, so you can have those at your fingertips. And my future plans include attending Kenyon College and majoring in biochemistry.
There you go. Thank you. Do we have any questions for Sophia's presentation?
Question. I wondered if you could tell us more about the resources you sent the student body, or if that was just your list of the bibliography.
So what was actually sent out was, I can't remember exactly how many there was. The big one in town is NAMI. It's a National Alliance on Mental Illness. It's on, I think it's Vine Street. They have an email, a phone number, and then they have an in-person building that you can go and visit. And then there was also like the National Suicide Hotline and other things like that. I also had a survey sent out to the students to record like, have you seen these before? Would you find these helpful? And then just sort of format a question. So those were, I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but I had like emails, phone numbers, things like that.
Great, thank you.
I think what was impressive when I read through her information was this survey, and she gave all the students this information and asked, were you aware of this information? And by and large, a lot of students were not aware of that information or where to find that kind of help. Certainly, socioeconomics takes a big role.
That was a lot of the research that I had done, sort of the underlying reasons as to why people don't necessarily know those things.
Very good.
I thought it was also really wise that you only asked 3 questions on your survey. So you got a good response.
I'm not sure that got me the most responses.
Yeah.
That was very smart.
Sophia, what attracted you to that particular subject?
So I remember a couple of years ago that the school tried to do something to sort of raise mental health awareness, and it didn't really go very well. I saw a lot of students being kind of mocking and disrespectful towards the whole concept really. And so I was hoping that, unfortunately, we've had a lot of tragedies in the community, that people would be more open to having some of those conversations. Good, thank you.
Great job, Sophia. Sophia, Mercy, mental health, rural and community. All right, we're up to Madeline. Come on out, Madeline.
So I did a winter clothing drive, and I chose to do this because coats for kids did not happen these couple of years because of COVID. And I think a lot of parents use that to help with so I did this before Christmas time to try to get it as a Christmas present or just to help any family in need. So I teamed up with Interchurch Social Services, who deals with families in need with clothing, food, baby products. And they also have a thrift store attached to them. So I thought that was even better to just bring the clothes there to help these families out. So what I did was I made lots of posters. I worked with Twin Oak and the middle school. And the middle school actually gave me lots of clothes. Instead of donating them to Goodwill, they gave them to me. Yeah, it actually worked out really well. And then, and I put bins around, collected them. I brought them to Interchurch a couple times. And I have the numbers in my slide, I couldn't forget, but I think I impacted around 50-ish families, depending on how many clothes each family got. Yeah, and then my plans are to attend Otterbein University to major in nursing.
Good. Any questions for Madeline?
Madeline, do you see this as something that can be ever eradicated, or are the poor, as it says in the gospel, always going to be with us? Do you think that we can make an impact, a bigger impact as we go forward?
Yes, I do. It was very, I thought this would be more challenging, but I realized doing this project, it's actually very easy to just drop your clothes off and make an impact. One piece of clothing can impact a whole family, So if we keep doing this, it can be even better in the future.
Great, thank you.
I think the other thing that I found interesting was you went to Great Britain, you went to France, you did a little bit of research just to find out how other countries kind of handle these situations.
Yeah, I tried to find countries that were more similar to the US to compare.
All right, very good. Thank you, Madeline. Alex.
Okay, so my project was collecting e-waste at our local school because as someone who's going into a biological related field, I am very concerned about, how life thrives and it flourishes in nature and what can cause it to not do that. So one of the things that I learned about in our school was how much broken Chromebook parts that we actually had in the back of the library. And when I was told there were all those couple boxes, I was like, okay, let me check it out. There were probably 20, 30 boxes out there. And there were probably around 500 pounds alone just in that room of e-waste. And the worst part about e-waste is as we grow as a society and make better technology to help more people, is that all the old technology that was used gets left behind and no one really knows what to do with it. And even now, only half the states in Washington, D.C. have plans, statewide for a wider electronic waste disposal. Ohio doesn't. The last state that actually had one put into law was Utah in 2011. So it's been over a decade and nothing has come out of Ohio's. And what's even worse about it is that even if I were to, get rid of all of Mount Vernon, which I didn't be close to, there is so much e-waste being produced and illegally shipped to other countries that it feels difficult to make an impact. But I do know that I did help the school out by getting rid of all the parts that are broken and that could have caused a fire hazard, which was very important to me because I felt a lot safer after that, because I didn't really know the threat that was in the school until actually I learned about lithium batteries and the threat they pose to us. And my plans in the future do involve going to OSU, majoring in biochemistry.
Well, I'll tell you what I found interesting with Alex, and I'll let you jump in, was I don't know if I even knew what e-waste was, to be quite honest. And what really struck me in your research was we all have a cell phone. How many of us have gone through 4 or 5 cell phones already in our lifetime? Where does it go? And if it just goes in dumps, then there's a lot of harmful things. But I think what surprised me the most is that even the United States sends what, 40% of our waste? 40% of our e-waste ends up going over to third world countries to be buried. And I really liked your approach of trying to look at that differently. And I like the fact that you emptied out all our garbage. Any questions?
I just had a comment, and I really liked your advice about picking a project that you're really passionate about. I thought that was really good advice for students.
Yeah, that made it a lot easier to go through with the project, other than like, it was difficult to begin with, like choosing a wide enough topic that I could actually go through with the project that would be impactful enough. But once you find that topic, it makes it a lot easier to just dive into it and really put your heart into it.
Now, the thing I heard when you were going through the high schools, you saw devices, you didn't even know what they were, right?
Oh, yeah, they were, my chemistry teacher was I didn't think about this until after I got it, was she gave me like broken scales and like other measuring equipment that I didn't even consider when I first started this project could be e-waste. It's such a vastly engrossing topic that you really can't think of all of it.
You know, V8s or film projectors, I mean, those things are a thing of the past, so thanks a
What
lot.
can we do with it?
You have, this is part of the problem is that not a lot of people know what to do with it. And I frankly, when I started my project, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But I went to Kenyon's website and they have an e-waste collection. It's on the first Saturday of every month from 11 to 1. And along with Sophia and my friend Ethan, we were able to get it because it took us like 3 cars to actually get down there. And they took it. Most of it didn't cost any. The only thing that would cost something was like bigger appliances like TVs. And you couldn't donate like refrigerators or anything too big. So there obviously are limitations to what you can get rid of. But for the majority of it, you can get like laptops. So like even headphones kind of does a lot of good.
Much of that can be reimagined into something new, you think?
The majority of it actually can be because it's made out of metals that are non-renewable, like mercury off the top of my head is one of them. That are obviously not only poisonous to if they get in the water, but can be reused in something that we need.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last but not least, Ms. Alec.
So I focus my project on single-use plastics, which are a large part of our society. You see it everywhere from grocery stores to other products and even carrying your items. So I focused my project on plastic bag waste, which they're very difficult to recycle. They can cause a lot of issues for disposal companies. And so for my project, I collected unused or secondhand materials like tablecloths and curtains, and I made reusable tote bags, about 20, and I distributed them to a local food bank through the interchurch service as well, so they could use it in distributing their food items. I also created a website with more information into the specifics of single waste use and how you can single waste plastic use and how you can reduce your own impact, as well as kind of the larger issue that it poses to us as a global community.
Good. Any questions for Ella?
This is my vice. I'm very bad with using plastic water, disposable. I recycle it, but as my niece said, this is just one of the worst things that we are doing. So what kind of, I know I'm one person, but what kind of an impact could I have on just stopping this?
It's hard to calculate what impact you can have. I'd say if you're asking about reducing your impact, definitely getting reusable items and also just being aware of the issue can also be very, very helpful in that process. And
it was, when I was doing a project, it was hard to decide on how I was going to make an impact, as a singular high schooler.
Yes.
So looking at it as a larger issue, I think is very vital to making an actual impact that could help us well into the future.
So the first word, reduce, is almost more important than, or is it reuse? Which comes first?
Reduce, reuse, recycle, I
Yes.
think is the phrase, yes.
Yes.
I'd say that is a very important aspect of it, because if you don't make the waste, it really can't become an issue.
What I thought was really unique in Ella's piece was she not only identified a problem, but she came up with a solution. And that's not, I mean, we're good at identifying problems, it's solutions. And I don't know if you can see the small picture that's up there, but she made those bags. So instead of me going to, my local Kroger and taking 16 plastic bags, I mean, I could be toting it around at something and just making a small impact in this particular area. So appreciate that. And I love seeing it and play on. You did an amazing job.
I have a couple questions. I wanted to know how long it took you to make each bag.
A long time. It took a couple weekends. I kind of took over our family dining room, kind of laying out all the pieces. It did take quite a bit of time, because cutting the pieces out, sewing them with a liner in and outside and the straps, and then just getting that all together took a couple weekends, kind of doing it in steps and in chunks.
The second question I had was, which is more harmful, the soft plastic like plastic bags or the harder plastics like water bottles?
I'm not sure if I have an answer to that question.
I thought maybe you saw that in your research.
No.
Okay, great. And I also like the advice that you gave to think about something that is really your own interest, and that will enrich your project. I thought that was good advice to students too. So thank you for sharing that.
All right. Well, let's give our global scholar. Finish up here.
Well, just really quickly, I think it goes without saying, but I want to just point out the amount of time that it took for them to do this. Some of the planning started before the beginning of the school year, and they worked day in and day out and carrying this out. And I like that CCWA calls this the Take Action Project, because I think it's a good reminder for all of us, frankly, but especially young people, that when we become better informed and we're educated on something and we now have a passion, it's not enough to just feel bad about it. It's not enough to just be passionate about it. What are you gonna do about it here locally or globally to solve the issue? And so they actually had to do that by taking action and putting forth that effort. I want to thank you again for providing this meaningful experiences for all of our students. It's incredibly impactful, and I'm really excited to see where the program goes in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. They did have a ceremony, I think it was mentioned, and they got a Global Scholars Diploma that will go along with their diploma that they'll be receiving here on Sunday. So that's an exciting thing. Next year, there's about 12 students kind of in that pipeline. The unfortunate thing that some of the students missed that Clay had mentioned was just the ability to go to Columbus and interact with all of these other schools and to meet all of these other students who have similar kinds of concerns and challenges and projects they want to do. That's the idea, that we get out of our little bubble here in Mount Vernon and go out and see what else is out there. So I think our future looks really bright in that aspect. So thank you. I told you there was a lot to share here tonight. So we are also, we were blessed to receive an Ohio School Boards Association business honor roll here in Mount Vernon. And to share that, I think I have Rick Schaefer. Where's Rick? Come on up here, Rick. Over here. Can't hear.
Good evening. Mr. Cedar asked me about a company that helps us out a ton of business, local business here in town. I still, and you may still know them as Stafford Plumbing. They've changed the name to RCI Mechanical. They've helped us tremendously over the years. They had a big part in the field house. There's been a lot of late nights, but I was sitting back there thinking, what am I going to say? And I think the care that they give, because I can count 5 or 6 of those guys that are Mount Vernon graduates, and they do a ton for our schools. And you can really tell that they care because they're there in some nasty trenches and there's no complaining. They just want to get us going and get our doors open the next day. So I am very much appreciative of them and their company. Unfortunately, Brian was not able to be here, but he did send Corey Stafford in his place to accept the award.
Corey, on behalf of Mount Vernon City Schools, we are just thrilled to recognize you as a special member of our community, working for our schools. And so we give you this recognition. Thank you. All right, thank you. We're going back and forth and back and forth. This is a special time of the year as it's May, and it's a bittersweet time of the year because we have a number of staff members who have decided it's time to retire. And we all will get to that point at some point in time. But we have 5 staff members who are retiring this year. We always like to honor and recognize them just a little bit. And so if we could go ahead, we'll have different people kind of get up and say things. I think maybe because I've got a speaker right here, and I don't know if you can change that. I'd like for our honoree and the person who will be reading something about them to maybe come over here if that's okay. So first up, we have Sharon Durr, and who's going to be recognizing Sharon.
Just right where that speaker is. That way everybody can see. Hi, Sharon.
All right. So Sharon has been in education for 27 years, 22 of them being here in Mount Vernon and 16 being at East Elementary, which means she has officially been teaching long enough to have had her current students' parents as students. That doesn't make her old, it makes her wise, knowing all that background knowledge. All kidding aside, Sharon has been a great asset to East Elementary, providing specially designed instruction and intervention to her students. Sharon's also the type of person that's always willing to jump in and help whenever it's needed, whether that's taking on an extra recess duty or helping to set up or tear down or bouncing ideas around. Thank you, Sharon, for your passion and your dedication to our students here at East. And thank you for your collaboration and your friendship with our staff members. Your hard work does not go unnoticed, and you have very big shoes to fill. So if everyone will join me in thanking Sharon for her years of service in education.
Off the hook that easy. So what is Sharon planning on doing in retirement? Have you thought about it yet?
Yeah, I'm gonna be doing some traveling this summer.
Okay.
We're taking the grandfather on graduation trip. And then, another trip with Mary Jo Inspire.
Oh, I think I heard about that trip. Maybe over to Italy? Israel. Very good, very good. Well, on behalf of Mount Vernon City Schools, it's our pleasure to give you this small token of appreciation for your years of service. Thanks so much. Next up will be high school Spanish teacher, Nina Hooley. Come on up, please. Stand right there. That way I can get you on camera.
First of all, Dean, I'd like to, on behalf of the administration of high school, congratulate you on 30 years of dedication to our students. I'm the new assistant principal, Sharon. Dina always pops in. She's very sweet, checks on me and how you doing. She's always got a smile on her face, and I greatly appreciate that. She's always able to find a creative way and an interest for her passion in Spanish, and she shows that to her students. And she has developed experiences that have helped them broaden the horizon of her students. Dina, you will be missed very much, and we wish you the best in the future endeavors.
Question for you. What are you going to do in retirement?
I'm definitely going to travel. I'm a beekeeper, so I want to develop that skill. And I'm learning programs. I can make that Spanish program. I always look for it. It doesn't exist.
Hey, so you're really not retiring, just changing little.
Just having different fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, on behalf of Mount Vernon City Schools, small token of our appreciation. Thanks for all your time. Is Helen? Is Helen Rosser here?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I figured you might know this stuff after a lot of years in service.
Well, the current middle school administration gave me something to read, but I'll add to it when I'm done. Helen was an employee with Mount Vernon City Schools for over 30 years. She began her journey with the district in the computer lab. Once the lab was converted into a classroom and students transitioned to Chromebooks, she became everyone's go-to person for distribution, troubleshooting, and repairs. Helen also took on the position of part-time health aide and did an outstanding job working in the clinic, greeting all the students with patience, kindness, and did whatever she could to help them. Helen wasn't just a health aide to most of the children. She was a dear friend that always went above and beyond her duties at Mount Vernon Middle School. I will add to that, as the former middle school principal, that one time before Chromebooks, we had 2 computer labs and they were right next to each other. I had the brilliant idea to add a third, which was not right next to those. It was upstairs. And Helen took on that task, never complained, ran all 3 labs. How she ran the one that was upstairs when she was down, I don't know, but I didn't ask. I just figured she'd get it done. And so greatly appreciate that. And I know when they switched the technology, she just rolled with it. So always appreciate her help and dedication to Mount Vernon City Schools. Thank you so much. All right, what are you going to do with that?
Well, since I've been retired for 2 months, I did some traveling, went to the ocean and cleaned my soul. And I read a lot of books, so I'm going to try some new recipes. And first and foremost, I'm getting my granddaughter back on her feet. She had reconstructed leg surgery and she wants to have things again. So I'm working on the physical therapy and driving her to physical therapy and getting her back on her feet.
Well, Helen, you tell her best of luck from us, because how I really originally got to know you the most was through your granddaughters. My granddaughters take tap, and lo and behold, your granddaughters were amazing. And so obviously your daughter, you have done a great job. And, so on behalf of Mount Vernon City Schools, we want to offer you a small token of our appreciation. Thanks. There's Miss Mindy Gats. Mindy Jones. Hi, Miss Mindy. Guess who gets to read about you? Yeah. So the middle school staff is having an academic awards ceremony tonight, but boy, did they write up some. I had to get rid of some of the stuff they wrote up about you. Yeah, we'll keep that for a different member of that. No, I wouldn't. Teaching was a second career for me. Mindy decided to leave commercial real estate so that she could build relationships with students and build confidence in their math abilities. Mindy challenged her students through her love for math. She taught them the skills, showed them how to apply their math in real-world applications. She's worked one-on-one with struggling students and found countless hours after school helping students who wanted to put in the extra time to take their math skills to the next level. Mindy was great at working with students of all ability levels. Mindy also took on the role as a mother figure for many of her students, whatever they would do. It may be just a little extra attention or maybe even a hug. There's no question that Mindy touched the lives of so many students. Perhaps one of the greatest tributes to Mindy as a math teacher is a math passion she has instilled in her students. And what better example than the fact that our new 8th grade math teacher that is replacing Mindy, Drew Hedrick, was once her student. So while Mindy will not actually be in the classroom next year, a part of her will continue to influence students for years to come. A teacher, a colleague, a mom, a friend, a soon-to-be stress-free retiree. We honor Mindy Jones for her many years of selfless service to Mount Vernon City Schools and for her dedication to educating our youth. Congratulations. So, now what are you going to do with that?
Relax. Stress-free, hang out.
Very good. Well, on behalf of Mount Vernon City Schools, again, a small token of our appreciation. Thank you. And since we've had 3 middle school retirees, we're kind of dividing up the duties. So April Thompson is going to join me tonight. I told her it was not a roast, but Walt Lewis will be also coming on up. April, I'll turn it over to you.
Walt Lewis has dedicated the last 33 years of his life to being a bright spot for the students and staff at Mount Vernon Middle School. Well respected by colleagues and students alike, Walt has served his district as a mentor for teachers, a tech leader, an NVEA rep, and most importantly, as a creative language arts teacher who has always kept the needs of his students in the forefront of his mind. Walt is that incredible teacher who seems to simultaneously plan his day to be both an educator and to relate to his students. You can always find him searching for new ways to approach a lesson while engaging and making personal connections. Whether he was dressing in wild costumes, developing service projects for his team, or learning the newest social media dance trends so he could do it with the kids, Walt has always been forward-thinking in his approach to education. Although the middle school is happy for Walt as he starts his new chapter, he will surely be missed. We will miss his calm, cool confidence, his great sense of humor, and most importantly, we will miss his commitment and dedication that he has shown to every person who has ever walked through the doors at Mount Vernon Middle School. We love him.
It's 27-18 right there, right? So they know. So Walt, tell us, what do you plan to do in retirement?
Well, traveling, we are going to be going to Hawaii just a few weeks here, and then probably see me at Lowe's. I'll probably head back there, probably some teaching too. So, and just relaxing.
Well, let's give Walt a nice round of applause. So Walt does work at Lowe's. Has anybody seen him at Lowe's? He worked very closely. If you've been out at the back of the middle school there's a pavilion, and it's an outdoor learning pavilion, and Walt was instrumental in getting Lowe's to kind of jump in and help us out with that through some various grants. So just kind of a living kind of a legacy there for a long time. So on behalf of Mount Vernon City Schools, we would be honored to give you the small token of our appreciation. All right, with that being said, we're going to take a short 15-minute intermission, and we have some cake, and we'll get some of the ladies to help us cut that, some water. I know some of our board members and some of you might want to walk around and just talk to one of our students, to our retirees, and we'll reconvene our regularly scheduled board meeting at 7 o'clock. All right.
I know you all got the article about Joe Gill. Well, he's kind of like our hero. So what I'm going to do, since we don't have audio on here, we're going to act like we're at an old movie where the mouth doesn't actually match the video. And I'm going to play it off of here. So let me get that. Let's see here. Hopefully I can do that. Oh, hold on. Oh, I gotta stop. Hold on.
My story is one about kindness.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. Joe keeps talking. Sorry
All right.
about that.
Hello, everyone. So we're going to present some exciting things happening at our school. As I prepared to present this evening, this quote came to mind: if they can't learn the way we teach the way they learn. So we hope to highlight how we meet students' needs in ways that optimize learning, teach life skills, and promote success. Our students are truly inspirational. As Margie said, we recently wrote an article about one of our students, Joe Gill. He's been an inspiration to both staff and students at Dan Emmett. We have many students that inspire us, but we highlighted Joe because he is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and he has overcome many obstacles. He came to Dan Emmett in first grade, and when he started school, he did not want to be at school. He did not do work. He did not know how to make friends or get along with his peers, and he did not want to build any relationship with staff. He acted out frequently and was unable to manage his emotions. And on the most difficult days, Joe would become out of control, destroy everything around him, and make violent threats. He had incidents where restraint was the only way to keep himself and others safe. He felt like no one understood him, and instead of feeling safe and cared for at school, he felt threatened and uneasy. Joe has become a totally different student now that he's in fourth grade. He can identify and express what he is feeling and what he needs throughout the day to be a successful student. He has lots of friends and genuinely wants to make Dan Emmett a place of acceptance, understanding, and kindness. As an indicator of his growth, Joe initiated a school-wide random acts of kindness week. Please keep in mind, this is a student that just 3 years ago could not even build relationships with others. Once he learned that there was a national holiday, he wanted to celebrate it school-wide. Staff loved the idea and helped Joe plan a week-long celebration of activities with him being the leader. Staff recognized students all week long if they were spotted doing a random act of kindness. And as a school, we created a kindness tree, as seen in our photo, to spotlight these acts and the students who did them. Joe is hopeful that next year, Random Acts of Kindness Week can be a district-wide initiative. We gave the board members an opportunity to further interview Joe, and here's the video. Let's see if we can get this to work, of their questions and his answers.
Once you start off.
Oh, that's me probably who started, I'm sorry.
Oh, you started off. Oh, I don't have that part.
At Dan Emmett Elementary School. My story is one about kindness and spreading it throughout the district. One thing I love about my school is how they help autistic children. They find new and creative ways in helping them do their work, such as math, reading, anything like that. They will help them no matter what. Here are my answers to questions from Mount Vernon City School District board members.
That was his motion to tell us to stop. There is really noise here, local news.
Did it stop?
Yeah.
My name is John.
Oops, hold on.
And I am.
Hold on. I gotta get him to sit down. All right.
Questions from our board members. The first question is, what is your favorite way of learning something new? My favorite way of learning something new is to try it out first. Once I can do it, I gain confidence in myself and I can do it easier. What is a dream you have for yourself or a dream for the world? A dream. Some dreams I have for the world is the world can be kinder to each other. Another dream is that COVID can be a common sickness that can be cured at home. What is the best random act of kindness you have received? The best random act of kindness I've received throughout any years is when my friend gave me $1 out of the goodness of his heart. He is a real friend. Aww. What is your biggest achievement and accomplishment? My biggest achievement or achievements are being the weatherman at Dan Emmett and leading Random Acts of Kindness Week. Next school year, I hope it will help kids throughout the district in all grades, from kindergarten to 12th grade. Joe, do you have a question for Mr. Cedar, the superintendent? I do. What would you like to ask? Mrs. Cedar, what do you think about Random Acts of Kindness Week and how it will help students that gets bullied in the district?
Sorry, the mouth didn't work, but it was like the old videos.
I don't know how to
What
go
a
back
great
to the
question.
slideshow.
That
is a good one.
I think we need to have Joe be a part of our kickoff to Kindness Week. And
I think
we
he would
need
love
to-
that.
We need to make that a reality for him. Not only will it be good for him and Dan Emmett, but it'd be good for the entire district. So,
I don't know how to
well
get back to
done.
the slide. There you go. Okay. So Joe Gill is one of the many examples of how Dan Emmett strives to meet the needs of each and every student, regardless of their background, disorders, disabilities, race, and experiences. Dan Emmett staff does not see differences as deficits. Rather, we see them as being a special part of what makes the student who they are. Uh-oh. In alignment with the Ohio Department of Education and our district initiatives, Dan Emmett has used the whole child, student-centered approach for years and continues to build upon the foundation that meeting each child where they are is the best approach to helping them succeed educationally. Using Joe as an example, Dan Emmett's staff worked to build a relationship with him, embracing his way of thinking and understanding what he needed to stay regulated throughout the school day. At first, Joe's day consisted of him spending minimal time in the classroom, and the focus was more on building his lacking social skills and tolerance for stress, which was everything about school. Once he was able to build relationships with trusted adults and actually trust that they would help him when needed, he began building his tolerance in the classroom and being around others. A slow progression of skills were taught so that Joe could be in his classroom and actually enjoy learning. The books on this slide have been used as professional development book studies that have helped develop what we currently do. Most of our students have been exposed to more than one adverse childhood experience. Therefore, taking the whole child, student-centered approach is not only the most effective framework for our students, we feel it is necessary. Dan Emmett creates an environment where students' needs come first. We recognize that students need to be able to manage their emotions and have their needs met in order for learning to occur. I'm certified in both the neurosequential model of therapeutics and the neurosequential model of education, developed by Dr. Bruce Perry. The neurosequential model in education, NME for short, is a framework used to educate school staff about brain development and the effects of trauma. This training provides a framework in how to work with students both in and outside of the classroom that have high ACE scores and are at risk. The upside down triangle reminds us that when children are unable to manage their emotions, they are unlikely to be able to feel connected or comfortable, meaning they're unable to relate. When a child cannot relate, it is unlikely for the child to be able to reason, problem solve, take different perspectives, and learn. This is not just for traumatized children. This is true for all children. In Joe's case, staff recognized that Joe had unmet needs and lacking skills. He wasn't able to regulate on his own in first grade, so a calm adult helped Joe by using de-escalation strategies and other accommodations to meet his needs. He then began to identify and express what he needed throughout the day to stay regulated. Scheduled breaks from the classroom, taking short walks, taking brain breaks on Google Earth, and drawing are some of the strategies that Joe uses. Now he can tolerate being in the classroom for the majority of his day, participates in classroom lessons, loves coming to school, has supportive friendship, and tries to help other students when they are struggling. If you walk down our halls on a typical day, you will see alternate lighting, students walking the hall, and students sitting in various locations and seats in the classroom. You might hear calm, relaxing music while students work, or you might see a classroom dancing or doing some movement for a brain break. You might see kids in the hall, reflection room, classroom, or calm down space using fidgets, coloring, building with magnets or Legos, swinging or playing with kinetic sand or Play-Doh to help them prepare their bodies and brains for learning. You might see special lunch bunches or lunch dates with Mrs. Ark and students in and out of my office for check-ins and extra support. You might see staff recognizing swarm behavior, which is our PBIS acronym of school expectations. We give shout outs to students all day long for swarm behavior, and students get a yellow jacket hung by our tree. We hold kids accountable for their behavior without being punitive. We take advantage of teachable moments. Our growth mindset is not that students won't do what they're supposed to do. Instead, we think they can't. We explore what skills are lacking and what we can do to grow those skills. Next school year, staff will participate in another book study utilizing the book What Happened to You by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey, which sets the foundation of the neurosequential model in education. As mentioned before, the NME model stresses the importance of regulate, relate, then reason, and that is what our staff will provide for the students at Dan Emmett Elementary. We will help our students manage their emotions, connect with them so they are engaged and calm, and then work on dealing with the issue at hand. We will meet them where they are and build the skills needed for them to grow. We are excited to take Dan Emmett to the next level of being student-centered and understanding the student as a whole. Monthly classroom lessons will continue, and they focus on building coping skills, conflict resolution, kindness, empathy, respect, feeling exploration, and social skills. We will have an NME team, and each classroom will have brain booster and self-regulation activities throughout the school day. Our team will develop a sensory area for kids that need a break outside of the classroom with various activities that promote self-regulation and sensory integration to maintain calmness in the classroom and avoid disruption of other students' learning. We plan to implement an alternate recess in which students that are struggling at recess can attend a smaller group planned activity that will focus on social skills and other skills needed for them to be successful and appropriate on the playground. Last, with parent permission, referred students will attend groups that focus on additional skill building, such as problem solving, anger management, coping with stress and anxiety, and friendship skills. Our vision for next year comes from an unknown author, and it states, "In this circle, we are trauma informed. We connect before we correct. We stay curious, not furious. We understand behavior is communication. We believe in co-regulation, that kids regulate off the adults in their lives. We think can't, not won't. We empathize when someone is flipping their lid. We believe in restoration, not punishment. We believe that relationships buffer stress and build resilience. All of us need one another always. Resilience means we see you, we hear you, we are with you." Thank you.
Any questions for our?
Excellent book, if you want a good read about trauma and how you deal with some more trauma. I don't know if any of you read this, but we've done, like she showed you, Bruce Perry, Dr. Bruce Perry. He's amazing. And this is another one, and he really digs into Oprah, but also other cases, but then talks about, you know, what they do for some kind of different treatments. It's wonderful. It talks about expectations, and it goes back to just like the slides that we talked about. We're big in this.
I would just like to say how much we appreciate your taking so much time for one student and how you've just changed his life. I mean, it's just so impactful. So, and we know that that's an example for other students as well. And it's a role
He's a
model
great
for
kid.
the rest
He's
of
gonna
our district.
love helping with Kindness Week. He really is. That he's so excited to know that this came here. His mother has framed and father his little article and how proud they are of
Oh,
him.
I know.
Total growth. Total
So
growth.
you're making a huge impact. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And he's not the only one. We've got many,
Right.
but he's the
He's
one
just
that's
an
leading.
example.
Maybe he'll be that Glover Scholarship soon.
There you go.
Because he's truly leading and he's the one that's bringing up these ideas. So, thinking out of the box and listening and trying not to solve everything, because we as teachers love to solve everything. But you just have to listen and learn.
First of all, please tell Joe that I really admire his courage of putting himself out there, because there are some adults that wouldn't have been able to do what he did. And second, I have a question. The neural sequential model, how does that fit into our social emotional learning piece that has to be done statewide, district-wide? That's part of our standards that we have to meet.
It talks a lot about the lacking skills that some of our students have, especially the ones that have been affected by trauma or adverse childhood experiences. And so it fits really nicely in with that, because it is talking about exploring what those lacking skills are and how do we build them. And a lot of them are social skills or anger management, things that go right along with the social emotional part of it. And it's all about helping the kids regulate throughout the day so that they can learn, because that's what the diagram showed. If they are dysregulated, they can't get to the higher level of their brain to actually learn and retain any kind of information. They're kind of in that fight or flight mode, and you can't think when you're in that mode. So that nicely forms around just all of those things, and how do we keep them calm throughout the day so they can learn.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding, have you ever had parents come and presented, some of the theory that you've discussed this evening?
Have we had his parent or?
Well, just parents that have difficult children,
We have a really good relationship with our parents, and most of them will come to us, and you'll hear we're really good with accepting kids as they are and growing them. We're complimented constantly, but we really are. If an NME is going to be easy for Dan Emmett, because as Christy said, we've done so much to front load us for so many years that a lot of the strategies that they talk about in NME we're already doing. So it's just going to connect more dots for teachers. So it's amazing how it fits
Nice
together.
Presentation at OSBA.
Yeah.
Consider
Good
that
book if you want to read a good
for next year.
Thank you, ladies. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
for all you're doing at Dana. We're going to move along since we've had some different parts of this session. So Ella Conway will be the new class president next year. And I'll let you take a look at that. I'm going to mention some of these in the district update. So we'll move on down to our public participation. Do you have any public participation?
I think Darcy did have something.
It's okay. Come on in, Darcy.
I just wanted to let the board know that MVEA appreciates the process, the trust and relationship we have with the board and the administration, not only through negotiations in the last couple months, but throughout the whole year. And we appreciate your continued support. I know it's been a rough year for all of us, but it helps to know that we're all on the same team. So thank you.
Mr. Lang?
I don't have anything at this time. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. And there was no public participation, so.
Okay, if there's no public participation, we'll move on to board items for discussion, and there are none. We do have a number of additions and deletions. I think due to some contractual things we want to check, we're going to pull item 9B4, design services for the school-based health center. just to make sure we get some clarification there. It came in as kind of an addendum addition, and we want to make sure that's correct. But we will be adding substitute teachers, summer work crew, and summer food service. Those are additions to your agenda tonight. Okay, we'll move right into superintendent's report. I have just a really brief district update today because you've had so much already. And so the first thing I wanted to share is we just finished up with our 5th grade outdoor education camp. So, since COVID, we've not been able to take the entire 5th grade, which would be all 6 elementary buildings. That was a real important piece for us. It gave us a chance to connect all of those students. But we took the next best thing. Outdoor education is important. So on May 2nd, we had Columbia and Twin Oak. On May 9th, we had Dan Emmett and East. And on May 16th, today, we had Pleasant Street and Wiggin Street. They were full day camps. They went from 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock with a lunch and snack. I found myself racing back this afternoon from camp. And thankfully, we had just 3 wonderful days of camp. Just to give you an idea what some of the areas are, we had 5 activities that all students got to enjoy. Number 1 was zip lining, and it's a great experience. But I think what's even more just unique are the students who get up there, and it's scary. I mean, if you've not been at that height, it can be scary. And the kids are very positive. They try to encourage them. Sometimes they'll come back down. We'll give them a pep talk. They'll go back up. And to Margie's point at Dan Emmett with Joe, we have a student at Pleasant Street who really was kind of nonverbal as a kindergartner and just really had all kinds of challenges. And the strides they've made in 4 years, they were completely shocked that the student got up there and went down. And when on the way down, you just see this scream. And so that's one of those really neat things. The other thing is they learn how to use a compass and do a Pathfinders exhibit. So they pair up in teams and they use a compass, and they're sent out at 126 degrees and they go 35 paces and they find a number, and then it's almost like a scavenger hunt. And so they learn how to use some of those survival skills. Archery is always a thing that is really, really well received. All of our students get a chance to shoot a compound bow and a recurve bow. So that's a fun activity. They have a really unique reptiles and amphibian house. And I guess that might be a snake up on his shoulder. I'm not a real snake fan myself, although they don't bother me, but turtles and iguanas and lots of different things for our kids to learn about. Then they get to go down to the stream. Again, having 3 wonderful days. They learn about the eco of the stream, and they get out there and they're looking for fish and crawdads. And we actually, some of these crawdads look like small lobsters, but the kids really enjoy taking their nets out and doing that kind of a thing. So I thought that was really neat to share with you. We will also be putting videos on, I put 2 videos in your update, but we'll put all 3 videos, and John puts music to that. We'll put them up on our website for folks to see. We will be honoring 276 Mount Vernon High School graduates come this Sunday, May 22nd at 3 p.m. at Energy Fieldhouse. The doors open for parents at 2 o'clock. It is kind of a, first serve, get in and get your seat. The field house is climate controlled, so the air conditioning will be on. We have no idea what the weather will be like, but we'll be warm and dry, or cool and dry inside. We're hoping to live stream the event and have some video screens up as well. So always a special time to honor our graduates. And we have 276 of them. Just some miscellaneous information. We had a senior art exhibit. I saw Mr. Ward at the art exhibit, and it was neat to see him walking around, but it's still going on for 2 days. So if you go down to the Shoremeyer Gallery, that's downtown, we have our seniors are putting on an art exhibit there, and you can see some of the work that they have, and some of it's really, really impressive. We have multiple band concerts this week. The high school is tomorrow. The middle school is on Wednesday. Our senior awards is Thursday, May 19th at Energy Fieldhouse. And by the way, the 8th grade class trip will be taking off to Washington, D.C. on May 23rd. And our students' last day is going to be Thursday, May 26th, and that will be an early release. So we have our students get out two hours early on the 26th. So all kinds of interesting information just for your information. Any questions on that, the items? All right. We have just one item for board approval in this section. It is an MVEA negotiated contract, which Darcy just mentioned. We are really blessed to have a really good working relationship with our teachers union, as well as our OC union. And we were able to approve a 3-year negotiated agreement that really looks at 2.5% increases on the base over the next 3 years. So that's for your approval tonight.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve that item as referred to.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Were there any comments or questions? Okay, and we'll go ahead and vote.
Mr. Gulladye.
Yes.
Mr. Workman. Yes. Mr. Ward. I have to abstain. Mrs. Jackson.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Under curriculum and instruction, staff development, we have just our items for information, our student achievement liaison. Do you want to share that tonight, or do you want the board to read that at their pleasure?
I'll just say something really briefly. On the second article, there's a 4-step approach to experiential learning. And I won't go through all of those items, but the fourth one, it's another article in Edutopia. And I thought this was interesting because teachers are this teacher who teaches 8th grade English takes no points off for late work. And she's found that this new approach has really given students an impetus to do quality work instead of hurrying up and getting things in at the last minute. And no matter how late they are, she accepts the project, and they get 2 grades. They get a grade for the quality of the work, and they also get a grade for what she's calling organization and management skills. And then she has a rubric so that they get so many points for how late it is, how many days late, or whatever. So I thought that was really unique and great idea. So
if they didn't turn it in on time, there's that organizational management piece that might be
for
impacted.
everybody, there's that, they get 2 grades. So if you turn it in when it's due, you get the full number of points. And I can't remember what the rubric is. I think it might be 40 points or something. And then it goes down as the days go by and you turn it in later. So that is averaged into their final grade, the organizational planning. So I thought that was a really unique concept that might be helpful to.
Under this section of the board agenda tonight, we have no items for board approval. We'll move on to fiscal services.
So if you go to page 3, Mr. Cedar. I know this is difficult to see, obviously you have it on your Chromebooks. I'm really going to point out the right column, just which I shouldn't point out, but I'm going to point it out and give my best explanation. When I came here, you'll notice you guys have been working, who have been on the board with that column for a long time. I inherited it from Judy, and it demonstrates the percentage that we should be at this point in the fiscal year. You'll notice that the percentages are all over the place. Frustrated in my job that we had a biennial budget that was passed, but it really didn't go into effect until January. So this threw off all kinds of numbers, funds that had been unrestricted became restricted, which obviously pumped up our restricted funds. It didn't give us more money, but all of our wellness funds, which used to be a separate line item, became general fund expenditures. Obviously, many of these percentages are down, which is great because we've been able to use ESSER funds to offset some expenses throughout the year. So I just wanted to point that out. I probably should have skipped it, but not demonstrating much wisdom today. So if the board doesn't have any questions, we'll go to the amendment, and then we'll talk about the forecast for a little bit. This is just, you're used to these. It's not costing any more money. You are authorizing me to spend money we already have, and in this case, it is in our self-insurance fund, which obviously the board does pay a large percentage of that. But it's not new money, it's money that is in the fund, and we're gonna need, we probably won't need that full amount, but we're gonna need it to appropriate it to pay expenses. As you know, inflation has definitely impacted the medical field, so we're having some additional costs in that area. And if there's no questions there, I'm gonna spend the bulk of my time talking about the forecast, if that's okay. So as you know, twice a year, I'm required to present the 5-year forecast to the board and get your approval on it, hopefully. We usually just focus on what will be, I think, the third page in this document. Yep. So here's what you're used to focusing on. We drill right now to line 6.010. Typically, the board can feel free to ask me any questions you want. The last time I gave you this forecast, which was in November of last year, we weren't deficit spending until 2025. As you can see, that has moved down to 2024. That's a result of negotiating new contracts. It's a result of just inflation in general and some other things. It's not a drastic difference in a budget our size, but it is there. And what that means is once we start deficit spending, our quote unquote savings is going to drastically reduce, and it's going to reduce it quickly. Because as the board knows, and maybe the public doesn't, we are currently using some of those federal dollars to pay employee salaries. And once that money is gone, all of those salaries would be, for lack of a more articulate phrase, dumped back into the general fund. And at that time, our deficit spending will be able to it'll just continue to compound. So while I'm grateful for where we are, and this forecast is better than what I would have thought, we still have some struggles ahead. We'll have to put it on the ballot at some point, probably in 2024, an operating levy. I would just turn it over to the board for questions, but before I do, would you go down one more page? I want to point something out, and if you go back and look at November's forecast, which would obviously be linked in your Google Docs, continue scrolling, please, sir. I know it's hard to know, flew past, I'm sorry, still on page, yeah, that page right there. In there, you'll notice in the writing portion at the end of the first paragraph, it talks about by fiscal year 2026, we need to reduce our expenses by 8.2% in order to maintain a balanced budget. So that means we will have eaten all of our quote unquote savings and need to cut 8.2% in order to stay in the black, so to speak. So we will definitely need the community support, and on a levy before that situation would arise. For the sake of reference, when we did this in November, that was 3.2. So obviously inflation and negotiating well-earned raises for our teachers, and we're in the process of doing that with OC. All of those things are factored into that.
I think it's important to note that we, in a previous forecast, we were projecting deficit spending in 2021. And so some of these relief dollars have really extended that time frame. We've not passed any new money levies since 2013. So to be able to make funds last almost 11 years, and we will need to be back on the ballot in 24. You know, I think that certainly does speak to something, but it is something we have to deal with.
Questions for the board?
Just for information's sake, please, would you reiterate what the ESSR funds are called? That acronym stands for what?
Right now, we're utilizing the ARP ESSER, which is the American Rescue Plan.
Okay.
So that, and the district has been very fortunate in that that's the third round of those dollars that have come to the district. We've done a lot to address COVID with those funds. We still have future planning to address COVID, but there was also a provision in law, and I happen to have it. that allows us to, and there's two things that are really important in these provisions, allows us to provide principals and other school leaders with the resources necessary to address the needs of their schools and provide resources for activities that are necessary to maintain the operation and continuity of services in the local education agencies. As Mr. Cedar referenced, had this money not been allocated to our district in 2021, most likely we would have been on the ballot, and that would have been a terrible time to be on the ballot. The country, the world's in the midst of not that we're completely through the pandemic, but that would have been a terrible time to be asking this community for more money. So what this has done is allow us to buy some time. So I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
And does this take into account the new budget that supposedly we're going to begin?
It does and doesn't.
It does for just the first 2
Yes,
years.
it definitely does for the first 2 years. I will say that's probably a very conservative, meaning not worst case scenario, but I would rather be pleasantly surprised if that's fully implemented than shocked that it isn't. So
it's possible that it may be better than.
it may be. It's not, I don't want to say it's not substantial because to an individual, it's a massive amount of money, but in a budget our size, it could definitely have an impact, but it wouldn't, it may buy us another year if it was fully implemented.
Good to know. Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot to read it again, didn't I?
Your memorial books.
Do have several memorial books here. The first one is in memory of Ralph Nard, and it is titled Extraordinary Dogs, and it is donated to the high school library. And that was the father of Dina Hooley, who was one of our teachers who was recognized tonight and congratulated for her retirement. This one's, not that all of these aren't, but this one's near and dear because this next book is dedicated to Dan Telek, who is the husband of Lynette Telek, who is my assistant in the treasurer's office. And the book, Pizza School, a kid's cookbook for aspiring pizza makers, was donated to Pleasant Street. Lynette used to work at Pleasant Street, so I'm sure that's why she chose that library. And I know, like me, they love pizza, so I can get behind that book choice. The last one is in memory of Peter Crandall, who was custodian at Dan Emmett Elementary. And the book title is I'm Trying to Love Rocks, and obviously was donated to the Dan Emmett Elementary. We do have a couple of donations. We have an anonymous donation of $1,000 to pay for any fees that the high school seniors may incur. So obviously donated to support those high school students who are about to graduate and may owe fees. So thank you to that anonymous donor. And we have a donation from Marcia's Friends at Pleasant Street, 25 books valued at $211 in memory of Marcia Savage, who is a former teacher at Pleasant Street. Thank you all for those donations and memorial books.
I would entertain a motion then to approve those 5 items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Gatzman. And do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Ward. And were there any questions?
Just thank you, Gary, for that work on the 5-year forecast and helping
big
us
job.
to push it out as far as we can. So thank you for your diligence.
A lot of help, including from that guy, Mr. Stevens.
Well, thank you to both.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mr. Golodai.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And legislative update.
Thank you. I'll just make this very brief. The State Board of Education selected Stephen Dakin as our new superintendent of public instruction. He's formerly served as a superintendent of Reynoldsburg City Schools, and he was superintendent of school and community partnerships for Columbus State University. He was an appointed member of the state school board prior to being selected as our state superintendent. And then just on one piece of legislation, SB 181 will go into effect at the end of this month. It prohibits any school or interscholastic athletics conference or organization from restricting the ability of participants to wear religious apparel during interscholastic athletics or extracurricular activities. The exception would be if the apparel would create some kind of danger to participants. And there are lots of other legislative issues, but I'll skip over those. And if you have any major questions, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. We have a number of items in business services for your approval tonight. First is the station break, facility use request. We have an agency coordination agreement in case of emergency that they'll use our services. The Knox County Educational Service Center agreement is listed there for you. We are going through a district facility master planning process, and that is there for your approval. Item 4 was the item that we were going to table tonight, and so you'll really just be approving items 1, 2, and 3, and we'll bring back to you a more specific design services from Fanning and Howie.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion for those 3 items.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Ward. Yes. Mr. Gulladye.
Yes.
Mr. Workman. Yes. Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. And Mrs. Getzmann?
The only thing I have is the recommended issues for OHSAA. The voting closed today at 4, and so we should know on those 14 items tomorrow morning. They'll update the website at that time.
We shared those referendum items with the board. Didn't know if you had any questions related to any of those. We did share with you the items that we didn't feel were worthy of a yes vote. And there were 2 of those. So we'll see how the rest of the state of Ohio votes.
Have any sense, Mrs. Getzmann?
I do not at this time. No, there were no indication given.
Thank you. And thank you for reporting for us. And we have some items for board approval.
One item tonight in this section of the agenda. It's the graduating class of 2022, 276 students, pending the completion of state and board of education requirements.
I would entertain a motion to approve our graduating class.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. And we all want to congratulate our graduates, right? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Workman. Yes. Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr. Ward. Yes. Mr. Gulladye.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. And personnel.
For personnel, certificated and licensed staff, one item for information, it's a salary change notice. In items for board approval tonight, we have a number of employment items. You're seeing the resignation of a number of positions listed there. Also in item B, we have a number of substitute teachers, even as of this late date. We still have 2 weeks of school, summer school teachers, and the employment of some new staff members for the 2022-23 school year. And then item B, we have a transfer of 2 teachers internally who will be moving to new positions, as well as our entire list of substitute teachers for next year. And we greatly value our substitute teachers, and we have a number of home instructors for your approval tonight.
I would entertain a motion for those certificated license items.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Ward. Yes. Mr. Gulladye.
Yes.
Mr. Workman. Yes. Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. And we have another substitute.
In the same section, and we pulled it out of the section, we have a substitute teacher for the 2021-22 school year. And maybe if we're lucky, or maybe unlucky, I guess, we'll get this particular teacher, Caitlin Getzmann, for the 22-23 school year. We pulled it apart. So Mrs. Getzmann wouldn't have to vote on this particular item.
I would entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman
I'll
and
second.
Mr. Ward. Okay. And would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mr. Ward, yes, Mr. Golodai.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann,
Abstain?
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Mom.
Thanks.
And classified staff.
Our final section for tonight's agenda, no items for information, a number of items for board approval tonight, and those are employment items, a couple of them here yet for the 21-22 school year, bus driver and a custodian. We have a number of transfers listed for you. We're rescinding one summer work crew contract, has decided to take a different position. And you're seeing substitute employment in sections 4 and 5 with food service in section 6, our summer food service program, which we will be continuing again this summer. And we're grateful that we can afford that opportunity to students. We're looking at those 2 parks to continue that service.
I would entertain a motion to approve those classified staff items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Golodai.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And board member comments. I'd just like to reiterate congratulations to our retirees and also to our seniors that are graduating. And the presentations this evening just made me very proud. So as a board member, we have great teachers, great staff and administrators and students. So we're very blessed in our district. And Mr. Workman.
Thank you. I'd also like to congratulate the retirees and those students recognized this evening. Also like to thank the administrative and the staff for another challenging year, getting through that. Appreciate all you do, and the teachers as well. And lastly, really looking forward to attending the graduation in the field house this year. I think that's an exciting thing that we either are not sitting out in the rain or baking in the sun. So hearing the word climate control sounds good. So looking forward to that. But hard to believe another school year is coming to an end, but looking forward to the summer.
We survived, right?
We did.
Mr. Ward.
Well, again, I'd like to congratulate the seniors upon their graduation. Also would like to recognize the retirees. I was talking with Helen Rosser before this. I met her when I was 19, and we have kind of stayed in touch for a really long time. So this was kind of a special evening to be able to share that with her. Is kind of one of those things you don't know behind the scenes. Also, I wanted to thank our union leaders. It can be a thankless job, and but somebody has to do it. And I want to thank you all for carrying that on behalf of our teachers, our classified staff, all the above. It's appreciated, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gulladye.
Thank you for those who were here earlier and those tuning in at home. And I made a long list of thank yous, so please bear with me. To our substitutes, aides, teachers, digital academy staff, our custodial and food personnel, bus drivers, mechanics, our groundskeepers, secretaries, social workers, principals, nurses, aides, our superintendent, treasurer, and all board personnel, our partners at ESC and the Knox County Career Center, to our community and business leaders, to our children, and to all the unnamed heroes. Thank you. This is truly a collaboration. And with that, we have a strong and vital, successful school system, and our Jacket family helps make a stronger community. Thank you.
I almost feel like we need to clap.
I know.
And I have to follow that.
I know.
That's the tough one. No, as we recognized our retirees, just to hear the tenure that they have behind them and then the length of time they've spent at Mount Vernon. that they haven't traveled. They've come here and they've stayed here. And I think that in itself speaks volumes of our administration, our coworkers. I'm not sure how you're going to replace Mr. Lewis, April, but good luck. It's just exciting because they always bring so much vibrant energy. And it's exciting to see that they return it back with Mr. Lewis's daughters back in our district. So it just continues to come back around, and that's exciting to see. So, and it's wonderful that at the end of the year that we can recognize so many students that have achieved so much that make us all so proud. I have thoroughly enjoyed the 5th grade videos, and it's just to see the kids being able to experience some of those things, much like our 8th grade trip, that they may not get to experience without being in our buildings. So that's exciting that we've allowing those opportunities to exist for our students, not just behind a desk, but getting them out into the real world. So that's exciting to see. So thank you for making those happen as well.
Thank you. I think you did very well, following. And Mr. Cedar.
Well, I would just like to thank those retirees. It's a pretty special group, over 150 years of service to the district. And we say that every year. It's bittersweet. At the same time, it's exciting to see some new faces and some new initiatives, see what's going on in our buildings. I'd like to say a special thank you to Emma Davis from Knox Pages. This is her last meeting. She is going on to bigger and brighter journalism endeavors. And I know I really enjoyed working with her over the past year or so, and wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, Emma.
And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And then any last minute comments? Just thank you all for bearing with us right to the bitter end. And if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Gulladye.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.